Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you. My name is Rachelle Rutherford, and if you received a swag bag this morning, if not, go pick it up. You're going to receive a copy of my Forbes book called Chasing the Impossible. So I hope that you'll take time to read that, and I hope it inspires you to go after your big dreams and to chase down the impossible. So this morning, I want to share with you, with your permission, a little bit about me so that you can learn where I've come from and where I am today. So is this working? Okay. As a child, I was actually abused and abandoned by my parents. And at the age of 16, I found myself laying in a hospital bed. I had attempted suicide. I was an athlete. I was on dance company. I thought I had the whole world at my feet. And I didn't in that moment. And after spending a year homeless, waking up in the hospital, I thought, how in the world did I get here? How did I create a life where I would take my own life? And it felt like an impossible problem, an impossible challenge that could not be solved. And as I laid there in that bed, I thought to myself, this is not who I was created to be. I don't know if any of you have had moments in your life where you've looked at your life and you thought, I was not created to be this, or this is not good enough for me, or I know that I'm meant for more. And so if you are a person that knows that you're meant for more, I hope that you will hear and open your hearts today for the message that I have for you. And with that, I'm going to require that you need to be open. So, what's the opposite of being open? Closed. Okay. So, being open means you're open to receive, and you're open to learn, and you're open to be maybe taught something new that maybe you haven't learned before. And so, with that, will you please turn to your neighbor and say, I'm going to be open. And if you have someone to the opposite side, which you may not, say, I'm willing to receive the message that's specific for me today. Excellent. Thank you. You guys are a great crowd already, so thank you. So with being open, what I want to ask you today is, where do you want to be? What seems impossible for you today? Well, starting from that hospital bed, I decided I was going to be the creator of my life, that I was going to create exactly the life that I wanted to have. In that moment, I didn't know how. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't have the education that I needed. I was still in high school. But I made a decision that what I was going to do was to change my life. And so I am a believer in a higher power. To me, that's my creator. To you, it might be someone different. But I asked the question, I said, what do I have to do? Who do I have to be to create the life that I need and the life that I want? And the answer came, and it was get an education. And in my little 16-year-old mind, I thought, okay, that makes sense, Maybe I'll learn a couple things. I'll go to school. Maybe I could get a job. Maybe I could get an apartment. And it seemed to make logical sense. And so with that, I started pursuing after the things that were important and the things that would create my life. Now, statistically, if any of you have heard of the ACEs study, Adverse Childhood Experiences, it's ranked from 1 to 10. And at certain levels, you'll have most likely be subject to various diseases, like as far as like maybe cardiovascular, cancers, those types of things, greater risk at teen pregnancy, greater risk at homelessness, drug abuse, mental health, all of those types of things. So from a 1 to 10, I was actually ranked a 7. So statistically, I did not have statistics working for me to have a positive outcome for my life. And that was going to be a challenge. But having that goal and having that mission to finish my education, that set me up to stay laser focused on a goal that I had, where I could have easily been derailed by so many different things that would have pulled me in different directions that would have not been for my highest good. And so with that, I asked myself this question: how could I possibly fail? What are the roadblocks and barriers that would cause me to fail? And I thought to myself, okay, if I turned in every assignment, then possibly I could pass my classes. And maybe the other one would be, if you attended every class and I went to every single class, then possibly maybe I could pass the class. Wouldn't we all agree that, a teacher, if they saw a student showed up every single day, and if you actually saw someone that turned in their assignments, even if you got some C's and D's along the way, that you would most likely pass. And so those were my two barriers that I thought, okay, if I can nail those two barriers, then I'm going to have success. Well, little did I know, 11 years later of night school, having 6 babies, working a full-time job, that I would accomplish my goal of 2 undergraduate degrees and a master's degree and a mother of 6 and a full-time employee. Thank you. It was not easy. To turn in every single assignment oftentimes meant starting papers at midnight till 3 or 4 in the morning. Taking care of a new infant, giving birth to 6 children, going to work full time, it had its challenges. Birthdays came and went. Your kids' plays came and went. And every single time when I was forced to make a decision, do I go to my child's birthday party or celebrate it on a different day, or do I go to class? I remembered the promise that I made to myself, and I kept my promise. I had to realign things, but I kept my promise. So identifying the barriers that are in the way of your future accomplishments and the dreams and goals that you have is important. It is critical. So today, where am I today? So today I'm the CEO of Kids on the Move, which is a multi-million-dollar nonprofit. We have doubled our operating capital in less than 4 years of a 40-year-old company. It's incredible. It's amazing. And you'll learn all about it when you read my book, Chasing the Impossible. I am also, as I mentioned, a mother of 6 beautiful children, 3 boys, 3 girls. My greatest legacy, the most important people in my life. I am also Mrs. World International Fitness 2025. And that is something that I've done as a CEO, as a mother, where we all know, what do they say about moms? Once you have a child, you can never have a fit body. Well, it's a myth. It's a lie. It's not true. It just depends on the amount of work that you want to put in to take care of your body and take care of your health. And as women, we make everyone else a priority but ourselves, right? Right, ladies? Okay, also, I'm Mrs. World America Fitness 2023 and 2024. In addition to that, being a Forbes author, as well as walking the runway of New York Fashion Week, as well as Miami Fashion Week, a hobby that I decided to pick up just 2 years ago. Because when I was in my 20s, I was offered a modeling contract, and I said no because I decided to get married and have children. But I always wondered, could I? Should I? Well, you know what? Nothing's impossible. Doesn't matter how old you are. You can do anything that you choose to do, but you have to decide and be determined. And so how does this relate to you? What are those dreams or goals or aspirations that you've had that you haven't pursued? What are the things that you've given up on in your life that you thought, it's too late for that? There's no way that's possible, or my circumstances don't allow that. Or the relationships that you want to have, maybe with your children, or possibly with that significant other. And you just said, you know what? They're not out there. I'm not going to find them. Well, I don't believe that that's true. What about your financial goals that you have for yourself? Where do you see yourself wanting to become? When are you going to decide to take care of your physical body that holds that magnificent, glorious soul of yours that was created for a purpose and for a reason? So I want you to take 30 seconds if you have a piece of paper, and I want you to write down 1 or 2 things that you have given up on or that you stopped pursuing because you didn't think it was possible. So I'll give you 30 seconds. Write that down just for you. Okay, so keep that in mind as we continue forward. So 2 years ago, I saw a Facebook ad that came up, and I saw a bunch of women, and they were carrying these really heavy sandbags. And they kind of had like messy hair, they were all dirty, and they were climbing up and down a hill. And I thought, you know what, this is interesting. Like, who are these women? Who would like go out in the middle of the sand and sand hills and just physically carry sandbags and have some large Polynesian man yelling at them that looked kind of like The Rock. And I thought, I got to do that. And so I made my way to Destin, Florida, and I met 8 other women who were from around the nation who also decided that for some reason they needed to go have this experience. You could kind of say it's maybe like a boot camp, but about a 4-day boot camp with like no sleep. And if you wanted to have every piece of your body aching by the end of the day, you know, that might be for you. But I felt really called to go. And I didn't know why, but I just felt really called to go. So on the first day, we were probably about 6 or 7 hours in, and we were running in and out of the ocean. We had to run into the ocean, rinse off all the sand, run out of the ocean, cover ourselves with sand in our hair, all over ourselves, fully covered. And if we didn't fully cover ourselves with sand, we had to go back into the ocean again, run back to the beach, and we did this for about 6 hours. So you can imagine the fun and the thinking that I might have had at that moment of, what in the hell am I doing here? Why did I sign up for this thing? What was the point of this in the first place? But he asked an important question. And he asked the question, what is it that you want? You came here for something, and I'm going to make sure and I promise you that you will leave with the thing that you came for. And we were all in charge of deciding what it was that we were coming for. And I wasn't quite sure. I was thinking about it, and I thought, what do I want? I feel like I've worked, towards a lot of my goals. What do I want? And on the very first night, it was probably about, I don't know, maybe midnight. And one of the coaches sat there with a big, bright flashlight in my face and said to me, what is it that you want? Why are you here? And he's like, why won't you just show up and be powerful? And I thought to myself, like, I am being powerful. I'm here doing this hard boot camp, and I've been doing hard things my whole life. And he looked me in the face again and shined that bright light and said, when was the moment that you stopped being powerful? And it like hit me out of the blue. And I thought to myself, the moment that I stood up to my father and I told him he could not abuse me and my sister any longer. The moment I stood up to my mother, who didn't stand up for me and abandoned me and left me homeless. When I spoke up to them and I said, no longer is this going to happen, what I realized in that moment when that flashlight was shining in my face was, if I am powerful, I lose everyone that I love. So think about that for a second. That relates to me, but how does that relate to you? I want you to think about in your life, when was the last time you were powerful? And when I'm talking about powerful, I'm not talking about, being a jerk to everyone and thinking you're better than everyone, but I'm talking about where you totally owned who you are, the essence of your being to your core, and you show up being authentically yourself and in your full belief that you are amazing, that you can do impossible things, that you can change the world. When was the last time? Maybe you were 5? Maybe you were 7? I mean, when did you dream big and think big, and then one day you thought, that's not for me? Or I guess that was a dumb idea. Or maybe it wasn't that important. So take 20 seconds and write down maybe a brief sentence of when was the last time you were powerful? And what age were you? And I want you to think on that. And how does that relate to you as a CEO? And where are you not showing up powerfully for your company, for your employees, for your family, for your physical well-being, your health, and your nutrition, for your relationships with your children, with your spouse, or your significant other? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Absolutely. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Absolutely telling the truth. I love that. Okay, a second lesson I learned. So we were given a challenge. We were at the top of a sandhill. We had to pick up these sandbags, and we had to walk down the sandhill carrying the sandbags, and then going back up the sandhill, and we had to lap 60 times as a team. And we couldn't stop, and we couldn't put the sandbags down until we hit our 60 laps. Now, all of us women came with different strengths and different abilities. There was one woman, she was amazing. She was like this physical fitness guru, and she was a powerhouse. And I was like, damn, that girl is like strong. And she inspired me, like just seeing her, she inspired me. But then there were others that came that had physical challenges that they'd overcome. Others that came with anxiety or stress or worries or insecurities, all different types of women from all different types of backgrounds. But what we promised each other is that we would not give up on each other. Like no matter what the obstacle was or what the challenge was, we would not give up and we'd give our all. So imagine going up this hill, and I don't know if anybody has walked up a sand hill before. It's not that easy. It's not that easy with a sandbag either. But as we were making laps, it got to the point where there were some women that were crawling. They were crawling like inches, just carrying that sandbag. They were completely spent. And I knew they were giving all they had. Like, I didn't look at these women and say, gosh, like, why aren't you going faster? Like, I was looking at them going, I can do more. I got to do more. I got to help these women. The quicker I go, this is over. Like, I got to do more. If I can do more, I'm going to do more, and I'm going to help these women. And as I started to lap, and I started to walk up this hill and go my laps, at the end of that, when we finished, and everyone was exhausted, at the end, came together and they asked, like, what did you learn? And surprisingly, what I learned, I'm comfortable carrying the bag. I wasn't even breathing heavy. And guess what? I was like 30 pounds heavier than I am right now. I was not in shape. And I was like, why was I not breathing heavy? Like, this is hard. This is hard. And I came to the conclusion, I am comfortable carrying the bag. And what does the bag represent? The bag represents all the stories, all the negative beliefs, all of the things that have happened in our life, all of the challenges, all of the struggles, all of the really hard things. Yes, absolutely. And it represents all of that. That's what all the sand in the bags. And so think about that for your own life. How does this relate to you? What are you carrying around in this bag that you're lugging everywhere you go? Doubt, discouragement, I'm not enough, I can't get it done. I can't go to the gym because I'm too tired, I'm too worn out. I have this thing to stress about. I don't have the financial means that I need. I don't have the time. I don't have a good relationship with my children. I don't have a good relationship with my spouse. I'm not attractive. No one will ever date me. Whatever the things are, like, what are you carrying around? And how long have you been carrying it? So for me, the aha was, yes, I was comfortable carrying the bag, but what if I dropped the bag? What if I dropped it? How could my capacity expand? If I've gone my whole life carrying this bag, then what could I do? If I dropped it and I picked up something else, maybe something amazing, maybe something I could give back to the world, maybe there's something I could do that would be powerful and amazing and change someone's life because I dropped the bag and I stopped believing that I had obstacles or challenges that I couldn't push through. So I'd ask you to take 20 seconds. What are you going to drop that's in your bag that you've been lugging around for how many years? And how are you going to expand your capacity to bring your gifts, your talents, your presence, your impact to the world and make it known. To step into your true power. Because guess what? All of those experiences are your superpower. All of those challenges that you've gone through, all the anxiety, all the stress, all the worries, all the negativity, it's a gift. My circumstances that happened to me as a child, it was a gift. And believe me, it took me a long time to get there. I'm not saying that, that it was easy or that I didn't have to do a whole heck of a lot of work to get there. But it was a gift. And now I can do really, really hard things because of that gift. So take a moment and write down what's in your sandbag that you're carrying and what could you drop. And maybe a question that says, how can my capacity increase if I drop it? And I hope you'll come back to that and really ponder on that question. So I'll give you just 20 seconds. Now we went to day 3, and we had another new challenge. We got to take our own sandbag, and we got to load up our own sandbag with our own sand that we thought really represented all of the things that we were carrying around. So we filled it with sand, and I was like, how much are we supposed to fill this up, And he was like, well, whatever you think, represents what you've been carrying around. And some people might want to load it up a little lighter. Others might, feel like they have a lot and they want to load it up a little heavier. And I was thinking probably 3/4 might be good. That's probably, aggressive, challenging, but not taking the easy road. And I kept asking the coaches, is that enough? Is that enough? They're like, I don't know. What do you think? Is it enough? Is it going to be enough? And so as I went to tie off the bags, we had to turn around. And when I turned back around, I noticed that my sandbag was filled all the way to the top with this much extra fabric to put the little zip tie on. And I was like, what the freak? Why did they fill mine to the top? I started looking around at the other ladies, and I saw one other lady that had hers all the way to the top. And that was a really strong woman, that was really fit. And I was like, well, that makes sense. But for me, why is mine all the way to the top? And then I noticed other women had it at different levels. And again, we came from all different ages, challenges, physical challenges and struggles, all different sizes and shapes of women that came together. And as I looked at that sandbag, I was like, okay, let's go, bring it. And so then they told us the rules. So imagine this for a minute and think of how your body feels for a second as I share this with you. And think about what comes to mind or what you immediately think or where your mind goes. And don't try to direct your mind in a powerful way. Just be like, okay, what's my gut check, right? What's my real reaction to this? And they said, okay, there's 2 rules. 1, you got to pick up the sandbag. So I picked up the sandbag. Mine was probably 50 pounds. You got to pick it up. You cannot put it down. You cannot drop it at any time during this exercise. I was like, okay. All right, we'll see how long this goes. Number 2, you had to keep walking. You couldn't stop walking. You had to keep moving. And we were on a beach, and we just had to walk for however long and then maybe turn around and walk back. So I'm thinking okay, this might be, I don't know, a little bit of time. We'll see. Maybe they're really trying to push us, And so think about that. Think about picking up a 50-pound sandbag. And guys, that might not be as hard for you as it is for some of the ladies. But 50 pounds, what if I told you you had to do it for a half hour? What do you think? Could you do it? Raise a hand. If you think you could do it for a half hour, raise your hand. I only see 3 hands. 4, 5, maybe 10? Okay, that's pretty optimistic. What if you had to do it for an hour? Okay, let me see your hands high. Okay, I'm seeing 5 people, 6 people. Okay, What if you had to do it for 2 hours? Woo! We're down to 3, 4, 5. Okay. What about 3? Ooh, I got 3 over there. 4. Okay. What if you had to do it for 3.5? Got 3 more. Okay, you guys are our powerhouses over there. What if they didn't tell you how long it was going to be, and you just have to carry it, and it could be all day, it could be till the evening, it could be till the next day, and they weren't going to tell you. You just had to keep going, not knowing there was any end in sight. Then could you do it? Got 2 people over there. There's a third. Why could you do it? And why could you not do it? Now, one of the things that we worked on was our holy cause. What is your deep-seated why? Now, if you think about it, by show of hands, how many of you, if your child's life depended on it, could carry that bag? Like if it was like you drop that bag, your child loses their life. How many of you would do it? For however long, until maybe you drop dead. Right? What if it was a parent or a sibling or someone you loved or your significant other? What if they were in a burning house and you had to run in there and take them out? Wouldn't you do it? So your why is so important when it comes to making and keeping promises to yourself. When it comes to like seeing that goal and that outcome, you got to ask yourself, why times 5? Why is that important to me? Why am I willing to do what it takes to actually accomplish the goal that I have? And after you've answered that question, well, why? Why is that important to me? So if my goal is to double the operating capital for Kids on the Move, why? Just so I look good as a CEO? Just so I bring in some more money and I can give a couple raises to some of my staff? Is it because if I double it, then I can actually double the amount of children that I help in this world? And why is that important for me to help children? Because the most vulnerable children in our society is what is deeply important to me. Because all they have is they have us as adults to count on. And why is that important to me? You can see I'm getting emotional about it. Amen. They are. They are our greatest asset. And I needed an adult in my life to show up for me. And I didn't have that person in my life. I had to do it on my own. So I understand how important those people are. If you just have one person that believes in you, any child out there, they have one person that says you can do it, or I believe in you, or you have the power within you to change the world. You have a power in you to go after your dreams. That child will soar. And so that's the why for me. So that's why I do the hard work. That's why I stay the late nights. That's why I empower my staff. That's why I fight for children and go to legislators and ask them to, have private insurance cover autism therapy, which was not a law 10 years ago, 11 years ago in the state of Utah. That's why I do the things that I do. So when you set a goal and you set an intention, you got to go deep. You got to go why times 5, or you're not that committed to it. You look at your health and your fitness, you got to ask yourself why. So when it gets really early in the morning and you've been up working till 10 or 11 at night, and the alarm goes off, and you're like, I got to remember why this is important to me, so I can reduce my stress, so I can reduce my anxiety, so that I can put me first and be the most powerful leader I can be for my company. I got to take care of myself first so that I can have so much more to give to others. So any goal that you set for yourself, whether it is professionally, financially, physically, relationships, or whether it's for your spirituality, you got to ask yourself, why times 5? So that when you say you're going to do it, you follow through and you do what you say you're going to do. And you honor and keep those promises to yourself. That's so critical and so important. So in closing, 2 other principles I want to just share with you. 1, you got to reverse engineer into your goal. And you got to break it down annually, quarterly, monthly, and weekly. And you got to be honest and tell the truth. Did I do what I said I was going to do? And you got to focus on 5 high-value targets to make sure that you accomplish the thing that you did. And at the end of the week, you got to tell yourself, did I accomplish that or not? And why? Why did I not? And why is it must not be that important to me, or I need to figure out really why am I working on this? But in closing, this is where it applies. I just flew in from Peru 2 days ago. 2.5 weeks ago, my appendix ruptured. And I was flying to Peru in less than 10 days. I spent 6 days in the hospital. The doctors gave me many reasons why I couldn't go to Peru. And I went down and I thought, why is this important to me? Why am I going to go? Why does this matter to me? And then what do I have to do to be able to get on that plane and make it to Peru so that I could go help children in Peru? And I got on that plane. And when I got on that plane, I had the beautiful opportunity of visiting so many children, the hospitals there, people there, dignitaries, former president, president-elect, so many important people that could help impact change and help children with disabilities and delays. And I met Stefan. Stefan was a young man that was born with cerebral palsy, 13 years old, and lived in the high mountaintops. And his mom had no access to care or coverage or any type of services. They didn't have wheelchairs. They didn't have anything, just not even his basic needs. And there are no therapy services for children with disabilities in Peru. And as I sat at that mother's feet, and she wept and she talked about how hopeless her life was because she could never leave her house. She couldn't even transport her son. She couldn't even give him any vital therapy that he needed. I thought to myself, that was my why. That is why I flew all the way to Peru. Regardless of my pain, regardless of my challenges, that's why I'm here. And then I hiked to the top of Machu Picchu, just for fun. But I want to leave with you, chase the impossible. Anything is possible. You got to know your why. You got to be powerful. You got to expand your capacity. And you got to drop the bag. And you got to fill it with positive, powerful self-talk. And you got to set your goals and your dreams, and you need to go after them. And so I hope each of you will receive what I share with you today and make a decision of what you're going to stop doing and what you're going to start doing, and chase the impossible with me. Thank you.